Hello and welcome to the Jack and Joe show, and it is our EFL Championship preview. Joe Sansom, how excited are we?
Oh, I'm very excited. It's probably my favourite time of the football season is the optimism just before the season starts, and I'm really excited for this video. We've been working on it for a while. We are both so excited for the start of the season, and we're going to be talking to some guests that are equally excited.
Some guests you may have heard of. Two guests to talk to today, just before we get into interview number one and part one of the video. Joe, I just want to know your thoughts on the new season. Of course, we've got a game on Sunday. We might as well have a little 1 minute preview of that game against Middlesbrough. Neil Warnock's Middlesbrough. How do you see it going?
Oh, what a welcome back. Neil Warnock at home. Don't have fun memories of these games. They're physical. They're everything the Championship's about. But I hope we can do it. I hope we can start with a win. Silva starts quickly with a lot of his teams. I hope that happens with us. I've seen the highlights from the Charlton game and I enjoyed some of the football we were playing. Obviously, it's going to take a bit of time to transition into this new style, but I'm excited, and I think it's the perfect Championship game to get us started in terms of a team that's been around for a little bit. They've built up and they've brought some new players, and they're trying to now get into those playoff positions most likely. We've got a seasoned pro in charge and Warnock, who's a promotion master. And it's a good test to see where we're actually up to. And after that, we've got some other fixtures that I'm looking forward to as well. And let's hope we can start the season as we mean to finish it, and that is in the top two.
Yep, we'll see what happens. We'll get into a little bit more of the Middlesbrough game later on in the video. And for now, let's get ahead to our interviews and special guests. Welcome to part one of the Championship preview video. Yes, there you go. I'm joined. Myself and Joe are joined by Gab Sutton, host of the EFL Fan Show. Gab, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm so well, thank you, Jack. It's a real pleasure to join you, and can't wait for the Championship and looking forward to chatting about it.
Just 3 days to go now until that opening game between Scott Parker's Bournemouth and, of course, West Bromwich Albion. Gab, let's just get straight into it. I saw in your Bet Victor prediction that you're going with a top two of Fulham and Barnsley. Am I correct in saying?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, explain your thoughts behind that, because, of course, Barnsley lost out in the playoffs. They've lost Ishmael as manager. So how do you think they're going to bounce back? You obviously think it's going to be a very positive bounce back.
I think Barnsley are massively underrated, and I think that the size of the club kind of colours how a lot of people are looking at Barnsley. I'm not going to deny they've lost some big figures. Ishmael was a great manager for them. Moat's a big player as well. They've lost Harold Ike, who was there for half a season. But you balance that with the fact that they've got a very, very young squad with the potential to develop. They brought in a lot of players. Let's not forget that Callum Styles could almost be like a new signing if, in Moat's absence, they move him into midfield, where I think he could be even better for them than he is as a left wing back. And I think they've got a lad called Liam Kitchen, who's a left-sided centre back, who I think could give them a bit more balance. So I actually think there's going to be lots of ways in which Barnsley improve, and they're building on solid foundations from the previous seasons. And when you look at the issues that Reading have had in adding to their squad, the issues Swansea have had in terms of the manager hunts, the way Ishmael, he was managing a really young squad last season. He's moving to a West Brom squad that's mainly got players that are 26 and over. How's that going to work with the extreme high press? I think there's lots of uncertainty for lots of clubs that were competitive last season, and I think Barnsley can take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you put Fulham top, which is obviously great for us, and we hope that happens.
Yeah.
A lot of people in their predictions are obviously going to lean towards the sides that got relegated last season, including us, West Brom and Sheffield United. In your predictions, you put West Brom a bit lower down the table. You put them in mid-table. And I was really interested into why you think that is.
Well, I sort of alluded to it a little bit in my last answer, in that I think Valerian Ishmael's style is extreme high pressing with, all of Barnsley's best work last season was done without the ball. They weren't actually that great to watch in possession, but it was just the way they just swarmed over their opponents right into the opposing half. And I think that strategy works with young players. And I think what Ishmael's got to do at West Brom is, because the squad's significantly older, he's got to make difficult balancing acts, because on the one hand, do I go with some of the more experienced players that could give me some proven quality but might not be able to do what I want them to do? Or do I go with teenagers coming up from the academy and under 23s that might have some potential, might be able to do what I want them to do, but might be unrefined as well, as you'd expect from a teenager? I think that's a really tough balancing act to strike. So that's why I've got West Brom. I think it's going to take them a long, long time to get used to. Ishmael inherited a Barnsley side that have been building towards that identity for two and a half years. West Brom are just starting because they had Sam Allardyce last season. So I think it's a real transition time for West Brom. Their fans will probably disagree with me, but that's how I fit.
Well, let's go on to the bottom of the table now. A lot of the narrative in the build-up has been about the state of Derby County at the moment. I would like to know and talk us through your relegation picks and why you've gone with those three.
Well, it's very interesting with the Championship this year because, and I suppose I'm not just saying this because I'm on a Fulham podcast or YouTube show. I see Fulham being quite a way off, quite a way above the rest of the division, and I think that there's lots of teams in the Championship that actually make a case for declining this season, which is why I've gone for some slightly left field predictions, like having Blackpool in my top half. I think that one of them is obviously Derby because of the off-field situations. I don't feel like I need to go into too much detail on that. But with Blackburn and Preston, two historic and sort of Lancashire clubs, I see them sort of stagnating a little bit. North End, their chairman, Trevor Hennings, seems to try and get away with a cheap option rather than actually build something and invest in the club's future. And that will be my criticism of him. And I think that, with some of their older players getting on a little bit, I see North End declining, having been playoff outsiders not long ago. And Blackburn, I think, similar situation. I think they're stagnating a little bit. There's a sense of things structurally being a bit chaotic from within the club. Question mark, David Mowbray, is Adam Armstrong going to go? Are they going to be able to reinvest the money for Armstrong? I'm not sure. I think it's only Harry Pickering they've brought in so far. So Preston and Blackburn, I think, are clubs I'd be quite worried about. But I think there's lots of others that could be in a bit of danger as well.
Yeah, to me, on paper, and I don't know if it's because we've just come from the Premier League, it seems like overall quite a poor league on paper this season. I think there's a lot of teams that are sort of within touching distance of each other squad-wise. I was wondering why you think that Fulham are so far ahead of the rest. Is that to do with just the players that we managed to keep hold of up until this point of filming? I mean, we might still lose some players. We haven't lost anyone important yet. But I was wondering why you think that is.
Well, I would say this if I was on a Brentford podcast or a QPR YouTube show. So this isn't me sort of pandering to Fulham at all. But I think that I look through Fulham's squad, and I see 25, 26 players there that you could make a good case for getting into most 11s in the Championship. And I think that depth is going to be absolutely vital. But, we can sort of roll out all the cliches. This is a 46-game season and so many midweek games, not quite as many as last year, but still it's a very demanding fixture schedule. And I look at some clubs where, you have sort of 13, 14, 15 players that you could say, I'm pretty happy with them to compete at Championship level, but then the rest, it's an unknown quantity. I don't see that with Fulham, and I think with injuries occurred, I think that you would be fine. And I'm also quite excited about Marco Silva as well. He's a manager with a bit of a point to prove, but listen, this is someone who did a lot of good stuff with Olympiacos, I believe. He was at Hull and very nearly kept them up there, made a massive initial impact at Watford. I still believe that this is a talented manager, and I think he's been written off prematurely. So he's got a point to prove. Big fan of this squad. I think you've got a sort of cluster of proven performers at this level, like your Tom Kearneys, your Alexander Mitrovic, your Big Mike, is it called, Michael Hector. But you've also got you've also got some really quick players as well who are really energetic, like Onuma and Cabano. And obviously a few talented youngsters coming into the mix as well. So I really like the blend of this Fulham squad. And to be honest, I've seen sides like Newcastle and Reading run away with the league previously. I think it's plausible that could happen with Fulham, because I feel like there's a just massive difference between what Fulham have and the rest of the league.
Yeah, there's been lots of talk on Twitter from Fulham fans who are very optimistic, talking 100+ points and stuff. I know it's very much tongue in cheek, but there is a case there. And I look at Fulham and I look at Norwich from last season. I'm making similarities to those two sides. And of course, we're linked with Matt Grimes, and he's coming. I'm not really sure what's going on with Matt Grimes, but I'm sure we'll cover it whenever something comes out. The final question from me is based on two teams who have two managers who have formerly managed Fulham. That is Scott Parker at Bournemouth and Slavisa Jokanovic at Sheffield United. I'm sure there'll be a warm welcome for Slavisa Jokanovic back at Craven Cottage. Not so much for the former manager of Scott Parker, given the circumstances in which he left. I just want to know your thoughts on how you think Jokanovic will do and Parker will do, and whether Jokanovic can get a third team up into the Premier League and the Championship.
Well, it was really interesting for me picking my predictions for Sheffield United and Bournemouth, and I've got them in the playoffs, both quite comfortably in the playoffs, third and fourth actually. I suppose I wasn't picking them in good positions because I was absolutely blown away by them in the same way that I am with Fulham, but it's more because I don't trust the rest of the league to stop them from getting into the top six comfortably. And I still think that there's quite a lot of uncertainty at Bournemouth in terms of the transfer business they still need to do. I think it's going to be an interesting balancing act for Slavisa Jokanovic to Sheffield United, because on the one hand you've got a squad that finished ninth in the Premier League in the last calendar year, but on the other hand it's maybe a little bit towards the older side. So it's how much do you trust the core of that squad that achieved good things recently, and how much do you kind of rejuvenate it with younger players as well? I think that's a balancing act. What's interesting, I suppose, to me about Parker with Bournemouth is that normally when a manager leaves a club, there's quite a big reaction from some of the players on social media. You know, they normally post like a picture of themselves with that manager saying, "Thanks, boss." I suppose with Scott Parker, what you would have to point out is that not many of the Fulham players necessarily did that, which suggests that, for a manager that's actually won promotion with a lot of those players, is he particularly popular from a man management point of view? I think those are questions that are going to be answered in his time at Bournemouth.
And final one from me. I mean, it's just great that football's going to be back with fans, and I don't think there's a more Championship way of kicking it off than against a Neil Warnock team in Middlesbrough with Keith Stroud as the referee, sadly, who I have a strong agenda against, but we'll get into that another time. And Gab, you told us that you're off to a game this Saturday as well. I wanted your final thoughts on how excited you for football to be back properly, because for me, and I know it's partly because of the relegation last season, and I personally didn't get to a game, I know Jack did, it almost felt like it didn't happen, and this feels like football is actually back for real now.
Joe, I can't tell you how excited I am to go to an EFL match this Saturday. I've been lucky enough to go to a few games. I did bits and pieces for Frost International, which meant I was lucky enough to actually attend games. But it's not the same. I think fans bring something unique to football. The spirit of supporters is what football is all about. There's the surface level things, which I like talking about, which is the tactics and what's going on the pitch. But underneath that, it's the love that supporters have for their team, what it means to their communities. I'm going to be watching Wycombe Wanderers against Accrington Stanley on Saturday, and I absolutely can't wait for that game. And yeah, football in its truest form is back.
Yeah, we can't wait. And obviously, since the Euros, it's been such a quick turnaround for the new season. Gab, I really want to say thank you very much for coming on. You are the first guest of the season on the Jack and Joe show. So thank you very much for being here, and it's been really lovely to hear your thoughts.
Oh, that's my absolute pleasure, gents. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of our Championship preview, and we're now joined with Ipswich fan Benjamin Bloom. Thanks a lot for joining us, Ben. And the link to his YouTube channel, which is great content, is going to be in the description. Ben, we had a look at your predictions video. Are you as excited for the Championship season as we are?
Probably not, because you're Fulham fans and you're expecting to finish really high up in the league. No, it's been 1 to 24 time and predictions time, which I absolutely hate. You cannot win in any shape or form. And what everybody does is they just comment back. They only ever comment on their team, and they literally add between 15 and 20 places onto where you put them. No, look, of course, we're really, really looking forward to it. I don't know when this is going out, but we are like 3 days away now. And isn't it lovely to have you guys back, hey?
Yeah.
It feels a little bit too like it was too recent that we were back last time, to be honest with you. But there's a bit of optimism around Fulham, which we weren't expecting. When Parker left, it was all a bit doom and gloom, to be honest. Even on this show, I think Jack would admit we were both quite pessimistic. Since Marco Silva's come in, we're all feeling a bit more positive. Our transfer business so far has been interesting, and we haven't let too many players go. And the vibe around Hotspur Park, from what we can see on the outside, seems quite good. I was very interested, Ben, in your video that you did a couple of weeks ago when you said 10 players to watch, 10 young players. You mentioned Fabio Carvalho, and I was really pleased to see that because he scored the other day in our last friendly against Charlton. He had a great performance, and it seems like it's going to be a bit of a breakout season for him. But I just wondered what your thoughts were on this sort of blend of players we've got at Fulham. We've got the experienced players that have done it before. We've got some youngsters coming through, and we've got a manager that's sort of ready to sort of prove his doubters wrong.
I mean, on paper, it just looks like an open goal, doesn't it? It just looks like a no-brainer for Fulham to do well. Obviously, the Championship has its ways of being ridiculous and making us all look very silly. But for all the reasons you've just said, it does look very optimistic. And when you go through that squad, because, as you pointed out, the turnaround since you were last here has been so quick. Literally the quickest in history, because the seasons were down. Literally everyone in the squad's been promoted before. There must only be, you mentioned Fabio Carvalho, he must be one of the only people in the squad not to have been promoted with Fulham before. Look, it looks very exciting. I'm sure we'll talk about Harry Wilson, because that's an interesting one. And just, if you just take one step outside of Fulham as well, in this post-COVID landscape where everybody's skint, and given, let's be fair, 5 of the top 8 last year were the parachute teams as well, it's just expected that, and look, this is not a dig, at Fulham. Look, take the money, spend it, use the advantage, but it just looks like this season of all seasons, a competent year one parachute team should have, obviously, we've seen with the likes of Stoke, where, I'm not going to compare, say, Sunderland, who had an absentee owner, or Huddersfield, who had that money and pushed it on to fund a takeover, essentially. But Stoke's the one, isn't it, where you look and you think they signed a ton of players, went through 3 managers and went 16th, 15th, 14th. But that overarching idea, especially when you look at Norwich and Watford last year, and let's be fair, if Bournemouth hadn't have had to get rid of Ake, Ramsdale and Wilson, that gap would have been much closer as well. So I would be very optimistic was I a Fulham fan.
Yeah, hopefully. There's a team I wanted to ask you about, and that is Swansea. Of course, they're in the playoffs last season, playoff final, lost to, of course, Brentford, which was very disappointing from our point of view, given that Chelsea won the Champions League the very same evening. But
yes, they did.
It was just an absolutely terrible day.
That was a bad day.
So you put Swansea in 12th, and of course they lost Steve Cooper, who was rumoured to go to Fulham. They've now brought in Russell Martin, the MK Dons manager. Does that change any of your prediction, or do you still think they'll struggle? Because I feel like everyone's on the same page here and feeling that Swansea will fall off.
I mean, look, we're all in the realms of trying to take on the predictors we've got and figure out where things are going to fall. And when you look at Swansea, you know, and I really admire what Steve Cooper did. It was 10th, 6th, 4th, whilst Roden was going out and McBurney was going out and James was going out and not much was being spent. For the direction of travel to have been in that direction. And now you look at it and you look at that playoff final and Cooper's not there. Woodman is not there. Gueye is not there. Roberts, I think, is injured. There's lots of bids going in for Matt Grimes. I think Fulham bid for Matt Grimes as well, didn't they? Ayew, who's been their best player for the last 2 seasons, is not there. Hurahan is not there. To answer your question directly, now we know that it's Russ Martin. I mean, I like it. I wouldn't like it if I was an MK Dons fan 1 week before the start of the season, because he's completely tied up in their pattern of play. But if you're going to challenge, you know, because frankly now Swansea's parachute payments have run out. They are a have-not. If you're going to if you're a have-not and you're going to challenge the haves, you've got to do something. And that normally involves either some very smart recruitment, like your mates Brentford did year on year on year, or massive tactical innovation, like Chris Wilder, Marcelo Bielsa did at Sheffield United and Leeds. So, yeah, it feels harsh to drop someone from 4th to 12th in your predictions, but you know, all the kind of predictors do point to that in terms of the Swans.
There's been a lot of optimism at Fulham this summer. As I said, it seems that there's been optimism down the road as well at QPR. After their end of the season, we noticed that they're one of the teams that you put quite hard in your predictor. And I've noticed a lot of Fulham fans, I mean, to be honest, even myself included, at times have almost tried to downplay it a bit, thinking when you look at the difference in squad, you just, Fulham's looks a cut above, but then the signing of Johansson,
I wouldn't even say looks,
Well, they made some good signings and they had a good end to the season, and it feels like that's just given them a big lift and some good pre-season results as well. Do you think they are a threat? Do you think that they could challenge the automatic places at all? And do you definitely think that they're a real playoff contender?
You nailed the point yourself by mentioning one player there in Stefan Johansson, a player that Fulham essentially don't want or deem they need, that made a big difference at QPR going in on loan from last January. They've kind of crept up on us, QPR, because they've been such a basket case over recent years. The idea that the three of us would be sat here saying, QPR have steadily recruited, spent well. They've brought players from the lower divisions, and Warburton's been threatening to take a team up before. Didn't really get time at Forest, but, you know, Brentford in 5th, and then there was, you know, whatever happened at Brentford. I think that's water under the bridge now. I'll go back to my earlier comment that if you get competent management and recruitment and no chaos, i.e. no one sacks their manager after 3 months at Fulham, Sheffield United, West Brom and Bournemouth, QPR really, as you pointed out, shouldn't be able to finish above them, should they, when you look at it all on paper? But it didn't happen last year. I thought there'd be chaos at Bournemouth, and you know it turns out they did end up sacking a manager halfway through. Still finished in 6th. So for someone like QPR, it feels like a bit of an open door, doesn't it? There's not the normal. So normally you'd have the parachute teams, and then you'd have Derby spending 15 million quid on a couple of players, and I don't know, we've had a Sombalonga go for loads of money. Okay, they're a parachute team, weren't they? But do you know what I mean? There's normally someone you can make an argument for, but you're starting to look at, okay, who's run well the past few seasons and been close? Millwall, QPR, Barnsley, obviously last season, but then again, you're taking out their manager and their captain and Daryl Dike, who was a really good player for them as well. And then you start to look at it, and I did the maths, and it was 44 points in the second half of the season for QPR last season. And even my basic maths can double that to 88, and you're looking at third place normally with 88, aren't you? So not that it's that straightforward, but look, someone like QPR, are a couple of injuries away. You mentioned the squad depth, and I think Norwich had about 9 injuries at one time last season, but the depth and they can get through it. And that's where a QPR or a Millwall, if you take Dickey out QPR for a few months or Wallace out of Millwall for a few months or something like that, that's where they need the perfect storm, don't they? But a real threat, that it would need to be things working in their favour. But they've done a really good job of stabilising, and they seem to be on an upward trajectory.
Oh, you're scaring me. You're scaring me with those comments about Queen's Park Rangers. Sort of a similar question to the QPR, because, of course, you've got Millwall up there in the playoffs as well. And I'm sort of expecting a similar answer. But what's your thinking behind it? Because, of course, you've got a Phobe who's come in as well as a massive signing for them. And you do look at Millwall, they're on an upward trajectory. Gary Rowett, very good manager, very capable for the level. So you have them in 5th, which is a big shout. And I was just wondering your thoughts behind it.
Similar thing, and it's you can make the argument and then fall flat on your face. But Millwall finished 11th. They finished 8th in 2 of the last 3 seasons before that. So they've had 3 top half finishes without getting into the playoffs. Managed to maintain it. We've been expecting sort of Jake Cooper or Jed Wallace or some name to go out after George Saville went out in 17-18 and raised a bit of money there. And they've not sold. They're very secretive about their contract lengths and their transfer fees, and they run a very, very tight ship. And my argument was, if it's an open door and Millwall finished 11th, and Millwall fans will admit this, they won't be annoyed by me saying it, they sucked last winter. They drew loads of home games. They weren't scoring any goals. And now they've put a Phobie in. They've signed Saville back. Ballard was very good on loan at Blackpool last season. Signed Malone up full-time. Billy Mitchell, you're probably aware of, is a good young player in there. And then the one you mentioned, okay, they tried Troy Parrott. They tried Ken Zahor. They tried Matt Smith. You know about Matt Smith, don't you? They've tried... plenty of people up top and never got the goal scorer. So your brain goes, surely one of them's going to get there and score 15 to 20 goals that would make the difference in a Gary Rowett team where it's all very tight. They never lose by many. They never win by many. They always draw a lot. And all of a sudden, if you have someone who can stick the ball in the net regularly, like a big hulking Serbian fella at your place, that starts to turn you in from a team that draws a lot to a team that wins a couple, draws a couple, and you know where that takes you, don't you?
Last question from me back to Fulham, and you touched on it earlier, was the signing of Harry Wilson. You might have seen a bit more of him than we did last season when he was at Cardiff. I've seen mixed reviews from Cardiff fans. His numbers look quite good, which was my first thought. That's what I looked to. And then they were saying that maybe he flattered to deceive slightly in terms of his overall performances. Now, personally, I think that if the numbers are that good, it doesn't really matter in the long run. But I was wondering what your thoughts are on him at Cardiff and in past years as well. I know he's at Hull and Derby and Bournemouth in the Premier League for a little bit.
He's a funny one, Wilson, because you've probably heard of Trump derangement syndrome, where whatever the wonderful President Trump did was either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. And I believe that exists in football as well. I've often spoken about Grealish derangement syndrome and Rooney derangement syndrome, where people either really overhype them or really think they're the worst thing ever. There's a bit of that about Wilson. I don't know, because he played at Liverpool and he's a sort of slick attacking player. I think people are quite keen to knock him down, and I'm not entirely sure why. So at Hull, and again, you've nailed it. Look at the numbers. Him and Jared Bowen and this is the key, in a not very good Championship team, did really well. And you'll see where I'm going with this. At Derby under Lampard, in an okay Championship team with Mason Mount and Fikayo Tomori and a bit of a lightning in a bottle end of the season and a mental win at Leeds in the playoffs. Again, the numbers, I think it's 18 goal contributions there as well, in a team that, let's be fair, scraped 6th and somehow got to the playoff final when everyone thought Bielsa was going to was going to do it. Then he had the season in the Premier League at Bournemouth, and I think he still scored 7 goals. So your point is totally right. And it reminds me of an old Arsenal joke where the guy used to stand on the North Bank and shout at Ian Wright and say, "Righty, all you do is score." it's kind of like
we could have done with that last season. That's what we needed. Someone that could actually get the numbers.
I think most teams could do with prime Ian Wright, couldn't they? But so then for Cardiff, obviously half a season under Neil Harris, half a season under Mick McCarthy, played more of a number 10 there. And again, double figures assist, I think 18 goal contributions again. And I reiterate, in a team that is not a top 4 championship team. So my simplistic brain starts to go, right, Fulham have got Marco Silva. Fulham have got Mitrovic. They've got Kearney, who will be behind him, and the assurance of people like Harrison Reed as well. Surely, if he puts up really quite decent numbers, 18 goal contributions at Cardiff or Hull in the bottom half, surely it stands to reason that he would do rather well at Fulham. But I said the same thing about Knockaert. And I said the same thing about Cavallero. And look, it's not going to be as kind of ponderous as it sometimes was under Scott Parker and the Marco Silva, I don't think. You guys would probably research that way more than I have. I like Wilson. I think a lot of people beat up on him because he's not a proven Premier League player. But if he was, he's not going to be playing in the Championship. So it's somewhat of a gamble. The ends justify the means, don't they? If you go up, good deal. If you go down, and from what I'm hearing, the ratcheting of the transfer fee has been done quite smartly. So that's going to be over the 4 years of the contract. If you don't go up, you may have, and he doesn't produce, you may have a white elephant that you may have overpaid for. But he seems like a championship numbers guy to me, and that's what you need.
Yes, that is definitely what we need. And I tell you what, you have predicted us to finish in first position. Not the first person, pardon the pun, to have predicted us in first. And I just want to know, because our first 8 fixtures are Middlesbrough, Huddersfield, Millwall, Hull, Stoke, Blackpool, Birmingham, Reading. That is quite a nice start, I think. I think obviously tough Middlesbrough first day, Neil Warnock is going to be a tough game. But I think that's a nice, steady opening 8 games into a championship season. Do you think we're going to fly out the blocks? Well, of course, you probably think we might, because, of course, you predict us to win the league. But do you think that's a favourable run of fixtures to start our campaign, finally, from me?
I'll do something annoying that I often do and answer your question by answering a different question.
Okay.
When you let's make the comparison to Sheffield United and to West Brom. Who will be seen as your direct rivals. I can make an argument for a faster Fulham start than I can for Jukanovic, who you guys probably love. And let's be honest, that football was amazing, wasn't it? With Sessegnon and Kenny, McDonald and Johansson. But they've gone from the fabled 3-5-2 and Chris Wilder and stunk out the Premier League right royally last season. That might take time. And then you look at West Brom, who have gone for like the most tactically niche manager they possibly could have, and Ishmael. And if he gets the players to buy in the same way that the Barnsley players did, then woof, good luck keeping with them, because Barnsley were great. So I look at that and think, oh God, that could go one of 2 ways, couldn't it? I think Jukanovic will be fine in the end, but he's a slow burner during the seasons and then
very much so.
Crazy runs at the end. When I look at Silva and Fulham, I think, right, that could go straight away. If you look how quickly you got Hull going, and Hull were rubbish in the Premier League, weren't they? Everton straight away. Watford were top 10 within the first half of the season. So it's easier for me to make an argument that Fulham would come out of the blocks quicker than those other 2 promoted teams. You just never know who else is going to go, though. Who would have thought Reading? I mean, you were probably concentrating on the Premier League. Reading scored 22 points in their first 8 games last season. We were like, what is going on? If this carries on like this, they'll have 115 points and be the greatest side we've ever seen. I don't think we can underplay the Mitrovic factor as well, because, I hear this and that, and we fell out with Parker, and we can't do it in the Premier League, whatever. Forget that. In the Championship, and you'll have seen it. I saw Fulham loads before lockdown. I think I saw Fulham 8 times, and he scored every game. And I remember seeing you at Derby, and you weren't in the game, and he just scored. He just came up with a goal just like that, and he bailed Parker out time and time again, didn't he? And I just have the feeling that 26 last time, if you can get him on the pitch for 40 games this season, he could probably get 25 goals again. And, that's a big difference. And you look at West Brom, okay, Carlin Grant and Callum Robinson could do it. Sheffield United, obviously Billy Sharp's been amazing, aging David McGoldrick. Rhian Brewster could outscore Mitrovic if things go well. But, I've fallen on my face doing what you've done and adding up the fixtures there and thinking, right, there, I'll get them all completely in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But, no, it looks like cause for optimism. But look, we've all been here before. Even with Fulham, when you sign McCormack and you think, right, here they go, and you were right down in the bottom 8, and the manager were changing, and Jukanovic eventually comes and bails you out. So, in theory, it's all very straightforward, and all those year 1 and 2 parachute teams will be. That's the other thing as well. Sorry, I'm rambling now. You've got 2 big rivals out the way because they got promoted last season. You don't have to play Norwich with year 2 money or Watford with year 2 money. They've gone, and we've had it before where that 18-19 season where you had Farke's Norwich, Wilder's Sheffield United, Bielsa's Leeds, Derby with those lone players and Lampard, Grealish with Villa with Grealish, and West Brom with Barnes, Gale and Rodriguez. And you think, God, that was a hard season to get promoted. And you look now and you think...
Slightly weaker.
Possibly so. And advantageous if you are Fulham and you've just been relegated down from the Premier League. What is your guys' take on Silva and Wilson? I'm interested to know from the inside.
Well,
Jack, you go first.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I'm expecting a style of football that was much more attractive than Parker's quite slow, languid play. And in terms of Harry Wilson, I mean, dead ball situations, this guy is fantastic. He's one of the best in the Championship. So that's something to get really excited about because we haven't really got a out-and-out free kick taker. Sometimes it's Kearney, sometimes it's Alfie Mawson. What happened a couple of seasons ago where Alfie Mawson just stepped up for a free kick for no reason, blazed it into the Hammersmith end, and everyone went home very frustrated and unhappy. I'm expecting us to have a tough game against Middlesbrough, but after that, I think we could probably end August on around about 12 points, maybe go unbeaten for the first 5. But you just never know. I'm excited. I'm slightly cautiously optimistic because we are these out-and-out favourites. So we'll just see what happens. I'm excited about the new signings and this potential Rodrigo Muniz signing, which has rumbled on for a few weeks as well. That's something to get really excited about, Joe.
Yeah, there's a few that seem to be in the pipeline, like Grimes, that we said about earlier. And I think that would be a great option in our midfield if it did happen. We don't know if it's going to because there was Premier League interest as well. I think it was Watford were interested in him last summer as well.
And I think Watford are going to sell Hughes at some point as well. So left-footed midfield would make all the sense in the world to go for Grimes, wouldn't it?
For sure. And it's a weird one. With the squad that we've got and the additions we've made, I don't think we needed to make too many other than in attacking areas because that's where we really were let down last season in the Premier League. Wilson, I think, is a great addition. And Silva's teams have always started very quickly. I think you said it earlier, Ben. They normally hit the ground running straight away. And it's normally they maybe start to tail off, if anything, rather than like Jukanovic get going more. So a strong start would be brilliant. I'm expecting same as Jack. I mean, Neil Warnock first day, I think we could have done without, to be honest. I mean, if we'd have had Derby at home first day, put it this way, I'd be feeling a lot more optimistic of seeing Silva ball in action because one thing that I wasn't at the friendly that we played against Charlton on Saturday, but from people that went, one of the big changes from Parker ball where it was quite horizontal, sideways passing, almost for the sake of it was vertical football, through balls between the lines. That's how we scored. And that's just more exciting to see as a fan. And that's what we almost got a bit more used to under Djukanovic.
A lot of championship players can't play those passes. It's you sometimes forget this is not the top level, and not everybody has got Tom Kearney's range of passing in the championship as well. So that's interesting that you said that, because I always remember watching Parker Ball, and I remember being at one of the first games against Blackburn. I was sat in the Johnny Haynes stand, and there were some Fulham fans getting really frustrated. And the thing I noticed was the refusal to. There was these big holes as well, and you're like, so if they refuse to play it long, this is quite easy to mark, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you just match up in those positions. So yeah, that's going to be you know as well as I. It's just the momentum in the championship, and there's those 46 games, and it's just picking up those 80, 85 points for the playoffs, or just a few more for the top two. The only danger as well with what we're saying about these clear favourites is you could get one of those horrible seasons where somebody scores 90 points and doesn't finish second because that is the risk, tide rises at the top,
and that maybe plays into the likes of Bournemouth, West Brom, Fulham and Sheffield United. There's 4 teams up there who will really be gunning for those autos, and obviously there'll be more as well. But Ben, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Finally, can I just quickly ask you, obviously you're an Ipswich Town fan, where do you think Ipswich are going to finish in League One next season?
I've got exactly the same problem as you guys, where everyone we signed like the Harlem Globetrotters of League One with our new owners, and I don't want to come across as an arrogant schmuck and say we're going to be. So I'm going to use something you said earlier, that I'll be cautiously optimistic. But in theory, if all goes well, then Ipswich won't be playing Fulham next season because you may get a double promotion. Quick one, sorry, while you're here. How's the when's the new stand open?
Well, the new stand is I think they're going to actually officially open it next season.
Yeah. So I think as it stands now, it's you can see from the outside it looks great, but the actual interior they haven't finished yet.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to be amazing. I'm sure that a lot of not only Fulham fans but neutrals will want to have a walk on the new pier and go into the actual stand and watch the game. What I understand from what the friendly was against Charlton from the highlights, that the gantry camera positioning is quite high, almost like an Ashton Gate sort of camera angle, which is going to be interesting. A wonderful view of the pitch. I don't know if I'm it doesn't really
I prefer it to last season when we were pretty much on the touchline last season, and it gave me a headache whenever you were on the near side because it would literally be looking down like vertically. So
I'm a bit snotty when it comes to my view, and obviously in that other stand there's a post every
Johnny Haynes
10 feet, and you're sat in the old wooden seats. I know it's listed and it's charming, but I might find myself somewhere high up in the Riverside next time I'm down there and it's open.
If you come down to Fulham this season, please give us a shout, and we'll definitely go for a pre-match pint
I would love to. Or something. I'm just warning everyone. My missus is so pregnant, it's not true. So I won't be. It's literally due on the first day of the season. So I won't be. I won't be at games for a while. I don't think, but I will definitely. And that's been the good thing. Blackpool and Fulham coming back. Everyone's got their weekend away up north, and they're sit on the grass and going and drinking in Putney as well back, haven't they? So
fantastic.
Welcome back.
Well, congratulations to you and your wife, of course. Hopefully thank you. That's going to be fantastic. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful chat, and hopefully we can catch up soon. Ben, Joe, any final words?
No, good luck for the season with Ipswich. It feels like, you said it yourself, it feels like we're almost in the same boat where we're favourites. We're not really used to being favourites. We don't really want to be. I would much rather be the underdogs. But, fingers crossed it goes well for both of us.
Thanks, Ben.
Amazing.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Massive thank you to Gab Sutton and Benjamin Bloom for what was a fantastic insight into the new season, their predictions. Of course, they went for Fulham first, which is fantastic, both of them. and I can't wait to watch Bournemouth versus West Brom on Friday night. I tell you what, Joe, we need to talk about a couple things.
Yeah.
We touched on Muniz with Benjamin. Matt Grimes, we sort of talked about. There's rumours there's going to be a medical on Thursday, but I'm not going to start saying that's the truth. It was some sort of ITK Swansea account that contacted you or us this in this like backroom dark sort of like just back
the Grimes stuff. There's nothing really that concrete about it other than the Daily Mail that are suggesting that the move's still on, and I hope it is. I think it'd be a good addition to our midfield, but there's nothing concrete, and until there is, I'm trying not to get too excited. Muniz seems concrete and it seems legit, and I've got to say the reporting on it from Flamengo reporters has been absolutely unbelievably detailed, and the account name, and I apologise.
It's Vene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Vene, and the surname is apologies, bear with me. It's Vene Casagrande, and apologies if I butchered the pronunciation, but he's well worth giving a follow. He's covered it from day one when it was Middlesbrough going in for Muniz. We apparently offered a straight loan. They said no. Loan with option. They said no. Loan with obligation. They said no. And then in the end, we just had to pip Middlesbrough's permanent bid for Muniz. And it's a young striker that would be back up for Mitrovic, we presume. You touched on it earlier, Jack. Marco Silva's requested this player specifically, according to the reports. He wants to make him the next Richarlison, which, as a Brazilian footballer, as a young Brazilian footballer, I'm sure that's music to your ears after what happened with Richarlison and the stock that he's got now. So transfer-wise, it seems like nothing's really changed since we last had the live stream, but you would hope that those are the two players we need to complete our squad.
And talking of live stream, of course, when anything gets announced in terms of transfers, especially transfers, we will be hopefully straight on it and covering it live on YouTube and Twitter and everything. What's funny about the Muniz deal is that because I've liked and shared and like commented and shared so much of this of the reporting from it, I'm now getting, because Twitter works in this way, so much Brazilian league coverage on my timeline. I'm actually quite enjoying it. I'm enjoying reading about the league and about potential transfers happening with other clubs in that league. So that's always fun. We're going to end this video by giving our own 1 to 24s, because why not? It's the preview. I think everyone wants to hear everyone's opinions this time of year. Everyone, whenever a prediction comes up on my timeline, no matter whether I follow that person or not, I always take a gander to see where they put Fulham and get upset when we're not in the top two. But Joe, you want to start us off with your 1 to 24 or 24 to 1, of course?
Yeah, let's do it. And I'm prepared to get crucified if this is wrong in a year's time, but I'll go from 24th to first. 24th, and I feel bad for saying this because my granddad supports them, is Derby, and that's due to the off-field issues. I think they're quite self-explanatory. Then I've got Peterborough in 23rd, newly promoted team. 22nd, Hull, another newly promoted team. My reasoning for that is purely out of their newly promoted sides, I've been more impressed with Blackpool's business.
Okay.
21st, I put Reading, who are having some financial issues of their own, haven't been able to really strengthen their squad. Olise has been sold to Crystal Palace. Huddersfield in 20th, I just think they had quite a poor season. I haven't seen them strengthen the squad with many quality additions. Not convinced about the manager either. Blackpool 19th, impressed with what they've done in their business. Coventry 18th, similar. I like the sound of Martin Waghorn, Jack. Good
Martin Waghorn.
Then I've got a few teams that, to be completely honest, I wasn't sure how to separate them. So 17th to 14th, I've got Preston, Bristol City, Blackburn and Swansea. And that is Swansea with the new appointment of Russell Martin, but this is just based on the squad they've got. Even including Grimes, who's currently still there. These are squads that I think are stagnating a bit. A lot of them have lost key talents, especially Blackburn with Elliott and the centre-back from Man City. The name escapes me, that was on loan there last season.
Howard Bells, wasn't it?
Ellis.
Yeah.
Then last team in the bottom half, I've got Millwall currently, always a hard place to go, and I think they'll have a fairly solid season. So into the top half. I hope you're all still with me. I've got Nottingham Forest in 12th, Stoke Trap in 11th. I have not fallen into the Stoke Trap this time round. For context, we nearly always put them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
10th and 9th, Birmingham and Luton, respectively. I think they've had really good transfer windows and they could build on their lower mid-table finishes last season. And just outside the playoffs, I've got Barnsley in 8th and QPR in 7th. A lot of people pipping QPR to do well. I tend to agree, but I'm going to put them outside of the playoffs because I think there's still 6 squads that I think are better than theirs. And those are in 6th, Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
In 5th, Scott Parker's Bournemouth. In 4th, our opponents, the Middlesbrough. 3rd, Sheffield United under Jukanovic. 2nd, West Brom. And I don't normally do this, but I've gone for Fulham in 1st. And I hope this doesn't age badly.
Very interesting indeed. I tell you what, it's going to be such an interesting season. The likes of Swansea you put down there to really fall off. And of course, we mentioned it with Gab and Benjamin. Just like incredible the way things have turned around. They lost Ayew and etc. etc. 1 to 24, 24 to 1. It's quite similar to yours, but not too similar. Right. 24th, I've also gone with Derby. It's just been a bit of a nightmare there, hasn't it? 23rd, I've gone with Huddersfield Town. I just feel like Corporan, it was very flaky last season. I feel like they might just fall off this season, even despite making all those signings. 22nd, Preston North End. I feel this could be their time. They haven't really recovered since like losing the likes of Hugill, and then they had the likes of Maguire, who I haven't really heard of for ages. Dan Johnson scored loads of goals for them in the last couple of years, but since they lost Alex Neil and they've got the assistant manager now as their full-time manager, I just don't see them staying up, and I apologise to any Preston fans out there. And their rivals in Blackpool beat the drop in 21st. 20th, I have newly promoted Peterborough. 19th, I've got financially in trouble or financial problems at Reading. I've got them in 19th. 18th, I've got what I could see as very uninspiring Bristol City. 17th, I've gone with Hull. I think they could actually do really well and stay up next season. So I slightly disagree with you there, Joe.
Yeah.
16th, Coventry. I think they'll just go well again and actually be quite comfortable. 15th, Blackburn Rovers. If they keep Armstrong, that will get them some good amount of goals. But apart from that, like you said, they lost Elliott and they've lost a few players, and I don't think it's going to work out the way I thought Blackburn last season. I thought we're going to push on towards the playoffs, and it just didn't end up happening. I don't see them doing anything next season of note. 14th, I've gone with Swansea. I had them higher up, as we actually touched on when Marco Silva joined and we talked about our top 6. But of course, now things have happened, things have unravelled. They're in 14th. 13th, I've got Birmingham. I think Lee Bowyer is actually going to do really well with them, but I just don't think they've got the squad to challenge for the top half. Speaking of the top half, Barnsley in 12th, last year's playoff semi-final losers. With a new manager, of course, the loss of Ishmael could really impact them. Scorley Woodrow, of course, is up front for them, and of course they lost Alex Mowat to West Brom. 11th, I've also gone 11th, Stoke. I'm not falling for this Stoke trap, despite the big signing of Sam Surridge, which is a huge signing for them. At 10th, I've got Luton, who I think could really do some damage next season, but I just don't think they're quite good enough for the playoffs. 9th, Nottingham Forest. Wasn't really sure where to put them under Chris Hughton, but I feel like Hughton himself will probably get them in and around the playoffs, but not quite get them into them. 8th, I've gone with Millwall. As Benjamin put them in the playoffs, I think they will have a good season, but again, might just lack in that quality when it comes to the final few games. 7th, missing out on the playoffs, is our opponents for Sunday, Middlesbrough. I think they will be good, but I don't think Warnock will have the same effect he had on that Cardiff team back in 2017-18. And here we go with the playoffs. In 6th, Queen's Park Rangers. I'm sticking with the prediction I made on July 1st. I think the fan optimism, the way in which they've gone around pre-season, they actually look quite good, and they could really give us a scare or two when we play them across the season. Fifth, I've gone with Mick McCarthy's Cardiff. I still think that Cardiff have a lot to give this season. They've still got a good core from their squad, and I genuinely feel like they'll be a threat. Fourth, I've gone with Scott Parker's Bournemouth. I think they'll be okay, but they won't quite get into the top two. I think they'll have a solid playoff push. They looked quite impressive against MK Dons in the Carabao Cup, despite MK Dons playing terribly. Third, Sheffield United, Jukanovic's side. I think they may start maybe a bit slowly, but they'll probably get there in the end and go up to third. And like you, second, West Bromwich Albion. I think they've got a very, very good squad, and Ishmael's a fantastic manager. They've made some really good signings, including Adam Reach, who literally signed yesterday. Massive signing for them. And of course, first, I have to back Fulham. I just feel like we've got a very, very good squad. And regardless of whether Seri and Anguissa go, I still think there's something there. If Matt Grimes signs, I think we've got one of the best midfields like the Championship has maybe ever seen. I don't want to come across as cocky or arrogant, but Joe, I know I've been rambling, but that is my 1 to 24 with Fulham winning the league.
Oh, well, I hope you're right. I hope we're both right, to be honest. I mean, when you actually look at the league on paper, squad by squad, I do think it's poor. I really do. And I even think some of the teams that we have up there as challenging have got poor squads on paper. And in a normal season, for example, if you put this current West Brom squad or this current Bournemouth squad into that season when it was Wolves, Cardiff, Fulham, 17-18, when we went up through the playoffs, I don't think they're anywhere near. Wow. I think they're struggling to get into the playoffs that season. I don't think they're anywhere near challenging for top two. And in a way, that's a good thing because it means we've got more of a chance. And I hope that we manage to keep hold of our players, which we have done up to now. Couple more additions for some squad fine-tuning. It doesn't look like it will happen before Middlesbrough, but hopefully before Huddersfield. If not, the end of the month is also fine, to be completely honest. Our squad's in good shape. And yeah, really excited now. Really excited to get going.
Final thing before we go, Joe, I don't know if you could guess what I'm about to get your thoughts on, because it's something we wait for every summer, which comes a little bit later than everyone else's. It is our new. I know what you're going to say. Our new shirts, of course. Yeah. A lot of people turn their nose up and go, "Why does everyone go bang on about the new shirts and when are they coming?" Blah blah blah. And then when they do drop, everyone loses their mind because it's got a few stripes and a couple of colours on the home shirt. Let's get your thoughts, because the away shirt was the one that blew everyone away. I've seen it in a few photos when people have picked them up at the friendly against Charlton, and just like during this week on Twitter. What do you think of that shirt? Because I think it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's lovely. I've got Fulham tweet notifications on my phone, as I always do during transfer windows. Got it, clicked on the tweet, and my initial reactions when I saw the kit was obviously eyes drawn initially to the colour on the first one, and I thought horrible. That was my honest initial reaction, and away, lovely. Now I've actually looked at them on the players, and I've seen they've got the media day today. They've been posting on social media. I think both are really nice kits. I still think the away is the one I prefer and the one I will probably buy myself to wear to watching matches, playing football myself. I really like it. The home I actually quite like as well. I feel like it's got a bit of a retro look other than the logo with the pinstripes. I quite like the way it looks in pictures and looks on the players and looks on mannequins as well. And I think that the angles on the launch photo maybe just didn't do it justice. It looked a little bit strange. Loved the idea of the launch with all the people from around the club, by the way. I thought that was a really nice idea. But yeah, I like both, but I prefer the away. What do you think?
Yeah, we're pushing for that Family Club of the Year 2022 with that launch. Look, I've got a picture here of Fabio Carvalho in the home shirt taken on Saturday, and I think it's quite neat and tidy. Some people will be upset about the colours, but if you think about it from this point of view, it's not a betting company. It's a sponsor that does fantastic things, gives Wi-Fi and phone signal to underdeveloped places around the world. I watched the video that came with the promo, and it was a really good video and a really good like sponsor to have in terms of just good values, as opposed to just your like typical betting company. I quite like it. It's quite new. It's quite different. The colors, maybe again, like I said, people might not like, but in terms of the away shirt, by the way, the stripes from 12-13 and the stripes like this, I think that's fine. I sort of saw this coming because someone put out a rumored.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's no way there'll be stripes. And it turned out to be correct. I was like, oh, that doesn't really happen very often. Apart from like the big clubs who always get their shirts leaked from somewhere or other. The away shirt is just really nice shade of black, a really, really nice color, and just goes well with the logo from the sponsor. And it is rumored to be the one that I am getting for my birthday next week, which is happy days.
Yeah.
I'm really happy, and I'm sure the players will look great in it as well. I saw Kungolo in the away shirt today in the media day on social media. It looks great. One bit of good news to tell you as well, just before I go, and before we go, sorry, on the Marco Silva live stream, I told you that I was unable to make Huddersfield away. That is now severely U-turned, and I've managed to wriggle out of whatever I was doing to the displeasure of my family and the disgrace of the Kelly family. But we will be at the John Smiths drinking pints and hopefully celebrating 3 points. Joe, what a marathon of a video, but what a video. Fantastic.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Probably my favourite we've ever done. We really wanted to do something like this where we got some insight from outside of Fulham. So to everyone that stuck with it to the end, thank you. And I hope you really enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll do more stuff like this in the future. Yeah,
hopefully. I mean, we've got a few contacts now, so hopefully we can get them on again and talk to them, maybe some other guests as well. You just never know. The championship fan base and like the media is quite a tight-knit community, and I feel like everyone kind of helps out each other. So wouldn't be surprised to see us maybe feature on some other channels. You just never know. So Joe, it's been a pleasure. And finally, for the first time this season, let's get a score prediction for Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with, I think it's going to be a tough game against Middlesbrough. I put them in the playoffs, you put them just outside. I am going to go for 1-0 Fulham. I'm going to go for low scoring. We'll get the job done. Marco Silva starts to imprint his style on the team, and we get off to a good start.
Okay, I was also going to say 1-0. I think I just have to agree with you. We beat them 1-0 last time they came to the Cottage. We beat Charlton 1-0 at the weekend. Who's the goal scorer? I'm going to go with Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic will get the winner, and I think Fulham will win by 1-0. And I think that will be a really, I think I'll come out the ground feeling really relieved that we've got the job done against Middlesbrough. Now we can look to some more favourable games. Of course, Millwall's going to be tough as well. But Joe, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, loved it, Jack. Thanks a lot.
Guys, please share, like, subscribe, and go follow everyone that we've had on today's show. And their links will be down in the description below. But as for, we'll see you for hopefully a live stream pretty soon, hopefully announcing a new signing. Come on, Fulham. We'll see you Sunday down at Craven Cottage and hopefully in the pub just beforehand.